I want to start this year by saying something uncomfortable, especially as a Filipino who genuinely loves this country. The Philippines is not losing tourists because it's not beautiful. It's losing tourists because beauty no longer excuses dysfunction. And across Southeast Asia, travelers are choosing carefully where to spend their money, time, and energy. And more often than not, the Philippines is no longer the first choice. Hi guys, it's Dee and welcome back to the channel. And since this is my first video of the year, let me set the tone clearly. This channel is not about sugarcoating reality. Loving a country doesn't mean protecting its flaws. It means being willing to confront them, especially when those flaws are costing us trust, credibility, and tourism. When travelers compare Southeast Asia, the hierarchy is fairly clear. Countries like Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, and Indonesia consistently outperform the Philippines in tourist arrivals, tourism revenue, and infrastructure readiness, and overall visitor satisfaction. Despite having most of the famous beaches in the world, the Philippines often ranks mid to low within the region, and that gap between potential and performance should concern anyone who cares about long-term tourism. The thing is, tourism in the Philippines didn't decline overnight. It eroded gradually through neglect, corruption, and short-term thinking. And COVID didn't create these problems, it gradually exposed them. And once you start looking closely, a pattern becomes obvious. The issues tourists complain about today aren't random. They're structural. They show up again and again and again across different destinations, budgets, and travel styles. So let's talk about what's actually driving people away, not in theory, but in the real everyday experiences visitors have once they land here in the Philippines, and it starts with money. One of the biggest shocks for visitors is cost, not because the Philippines is the most expensive country in Southeast Asia, but because pricing is unpredictable. Transportation, tours, and even basic services often have no fixed rates. Two tourists can pay widely different prices for the same experience depending on the accent, confidence, or how unfamiliar they look. This happens because enforcement is weak. Regulation is on paper but not consistently on the ground. And in many cases, ambiguity benefits those operating within the system. Tourists don't feel welcomed by that. They feel targeted. The next one is, why does everything feel overpriced for the quality? Visitors constantly compare the Philippines to Bali, Bangkok, and Ho Chi Minh City and other ones, and the same question keeps on coming up. Why am I paying more for less? Hotels charge premium rates but deliver unstable Wi-Fi, outdated facilities, and inconsistent service. Restaurants sell local food at international prices, yet the experience doesn't really justify the cost. This isn't because Filipinos lack skill or hospitality. It's because tourism funds often don't reach where they're supposed to go. Over the years, audits and investigative reports have flagged delayed airport upgrades, bloated infrastructure costs, and tourism budgets that don't translate into visible improvements. Corruption doesn't just steal money, it degrades the visitor experience. And next one is underwhelming food at an unjustifiable price. Food should be one of the Philippines' strongest selling points. We have diverse regional cuisines with deep cultural roots, yet many tourists walk away disappointed, not because Filipino food is bad generally, but because they taste something that doesn't justify the price. Visitors often encounter near international pricing for meals that feel rushed, watered down, or inconsistent. Local dishes are adjusted for foreign taste until they lose both authenticity and impact. And meanwhile, genuinely good Filipino food often exists in humble places that aren't promoted or integrated into the tourism. What gets marketed instead are overpriced, Instagram-friendly cafes that look good online but fall short on flavor. In countries like Thailand and Vietnam, food tourism is intentional. In the Philippines, it's often treated as an afterthought. Tourists will pay for good food, but they won't forgive feeling ripped off for something forgettable. Now, tourists don't care which administration approved a road. They care if the road exists and if it's usable. Here, infrastructure is political and not practical. Many destinations are marketed as world-class, yet reaching them involves broken roads, outdated airports, port delays, or unreliable ferries. This happens when contracts prioritize connections over competence and when maintenance budgets quietly disappear. Other countries treat infrastructure as the backbone of tourism, but the Philippines treat it as just a photo opportunity. Overdevelopment is ruining the very places tourists come to see. Another growing reason tourists are turning away is unchecked development in natural and protected areas. The Philippines keeps marketing pristine destinations while allowing projects that visibly damage the very landscapes being sold. Boracay is a clear example. After the highly publicized rehabilitation, expectations were high, but recent proposals and constructions, including large-scale infrastructures like the planned Boracay Bridge, raised concerns among environmental groups, locals, and travelers alike. For many visitors, it signaled a return to the same mindset that caused Boracay's degradation in the first place, prioritizing access and profit over sustainability. Then there's this controversy around developments near the Chocolate Hills where a resort with a swimming pool was built in what should be a protected natural landscape. The backlash wasn't just local, it went international. Tourists saw it as a proof that environmental rules in the Philippines are flexible, especially when money is involved, and that doesn't really surprise me. These incidents matter because modern travelers are increasingly, eco-conscious. They don't just want beautiful places, they want to know these places are protected, respected, and responsibly managed. And when tourists see natural wonders being built over, commercialized, or compromised, it breaks trust. It tells them conservation is optional, regulations are negotiable, and long-term preservation comes second to short-term gain. Other countries learned this years ago. They limit construction, enforce zoning strictly, and protect landscapes even when it's inconvenient. The Philippines often reacts only after public outrage, when damage is already done. And once a destination is perceived as overdeveloped or environmentally careless, tourists don't just hesitate. They move on. Frequent brownouts in tourist destinations are quietly damaging. Take places like Siquijor, heavily marketed as a serene escape, yet repeatedly affected by power outages. These aren't rare emergencies, they're recurring problems. And most power providers are privatized, yet reliability remains an issue and the government can't really do anything about it. For tourists, the message is clear. Comfort is not guaranteed. In competing destinations, outages are treated as serious failures. In the Philippines, they're normalized, even joked about. Now, navigating the Philippines without a local guide is exhausting. There's no unified transport system, limited signage, and no seamless payment method. And this isn't just a tourist problem, even locals struggle with daily commuting. Compare that with Thailand's BTS and MRT system. Clean, efficient, predictable, and tourist-friendly. Ease of movements build confidence, and confusion destroys it. Now, this is a very important one. Scamming persists because consequences are weak. Overcharging taxis is just the beginning. Tourists also encounter special foreigner rates, fake tour operators advertising on social media, last-minute add-on fees, inflated island hopping prices, rigged exchange rates, and unofficial environmental or terminal fees that appear out of nowhere. Some scams are subtle. A driver takes a longer route on purpose. A hotel suddenly adds charges that weren't mentioned at booking. A tour promises an itinerary but quietly delivers something for less. Others are more blatant. Fake booking pages, non-existent tours, or helpers at ports and terminals demanding payment for services no one asked for. What allows this to continue isn't ignorance, it's the lack of consistent consequences. Complaints often go unresolved, enforcement depends on location, and some tourist areas crack down, others don't. Repeat offenders are rarely penalized in a way that actually deters behavior. Over time, scamming becomes normalized rather than treated as a serious threat to tourism. There's also a deeper issue at play, a short-term profit mindset. Some people prioritize squeezing as much money as they can from a tourist once, rather than building trust that brings repeat visits, recommendations, and long-term income. And that approach may work for a single transaction, but it quietly destroys the country's reputation. Tourists share these experiences quickly on forums, Reddit, Facebook groups, and YouTube comments, and one bad experience can reach thousands of potential visitors in hours. Reputation spreads faster than any marketing campaign. Countries that succeed in tourism treat scams as an attack on national credibility. The Philippines often treat them as an inconvenience or just how things are. And that mindset, more than any ad campaign can fix, drives people away. The Philippines has one of the richest and most diverse cultures in Southeast Asia, yet tourism branding barely scratches the surface here. Museums are underpromoted, heritage sites lack proper storytelling, and local traditions are rarely packaged in ways that feel accessible or engaging to visitors. Culture is often treated as something decorative, a backdrop for photos, rather than the main experience. Cultural tourism requires long-term investment. Research, preservation, trained guides, digital platforms, and consistent funding. In the Philippines, those efforts are repeatedly undermined by corruption, fragmented leadership, and shifting priorities. Projects start, stall, and disappear. What remains is surface-level promotion without depth. And what makes this more troubling is that even Filipinos don't even prioritize their own culture, and it's sad. Many locals are unfamiliar with regional histories, languages, and traditions outside their province, even sometimes their own province. Cultural education is weak, and domestic tourism rarely centers heritage in a meaningful way. Other countries successfully build pride at home first, then sell the culture confidently to the world. In the Philippines, culture is often sidelined, underfunded, and undervalued, even by your own people. When a country doesn't fully value its culture internally, it's difficult to expect the rest of the world to value it externally. Airfare is another major factor that quietly pushes people away from traveling within the Philippines. Domestic flights are shockingly expensive, especially for short distances. A 1-hour flight between islands can cost as much or more than an international flight to Thailand, Vietnam, or even Japan if booked at the right time. And yet, the experience rarely justifies the price. Delays are common, comfort is basic, service is inconsistent, luggage policies feel restrictive, and disruptions are often poorly communicated. For what travelers are paying, expectations are higher and frequently unmet. Price plays a role beyond tourists. Many Filipinos themselves now find it cheaper and more rewarding to travel abroad than to vacation within the country. When locals choose Bangkok, Hanoi, or Tokyo over domestic destinations, that sends a strong signal to international travelers. If even locals avoid traveling here, something is off. In neighboring countries, affordable flights are paired with efficiency and reliability. In the Philippines, high prices often come with inconvenience, and when airfare alone already feels like a gamble, many travelers decide not to take it at all. Many visitors are surprised by how cash-dependent the Philippines is. Online booking systems are inconsistent, digital payments drop off outside major cities, and official tourism websites often feel outdated. What makes it worse is the inconsistency. A modern mall might have terminals down, a hotel might suddenly be cash only, and yes, sometimes even a 7-Eleven can't accept GCash while the balut vendor outside can. That's not charming, kinda. It's confusing. In 2026, convenience isn't a luxury, it's expected. Travelers plan their entire trips on the phone, and every extra step, every sorry, cash only, adds friction. And friction kills interest. If it's not easy to book, pay, and move forward, tourists won't fight the system. They'll choose another country where everything works. Now let's go to the hypocrisy no one likes to discuss. The Philippines publicly projects moral conservatism, strong religious values, family-centered messaging, strict laws on paper. Yet it quietly tolerates an under-the-table sex tourism industry operating in plain sight. Because it isn't legal or regulated, there are no consistent protections, health standards, or accountability. Exploitation thrives in the shadows, and oversight disappears when problems are officially denied. Travelers notice the disconnect between what's claimed and what exists. That gap damages trust, not just morally, but institutionally. Tourists don't expect perfection. They expect honesty, consistency, and regulation. The next one is post-pandemic recovery failed because the response was indecisive. While neighboring countries moved quickly to reopen and clearly communicated their plans, the Philippines reopened cautiously, changed rules frequently, and struggled to send a consistent message to the global travel market. Entry requirements shifted, documentation requirements changed, and policies were sometimes announced late or applied unevenly. For travelers, uncertainty is a deal breaker. Planning international trips requires confidence, in entry rules, health protocols, refund policies, and logistics. And when information is unclear or constantly changing, travelers simply choose destinations that feel more predictable, more easy. And other countries treated reopening as a signal of readiness. They invested in clear messaging, simplified entry processes, and launched aggressive campaigns to reassure visitors that travel was easy again. The Philippines, by contrast, reappeared hesitant and reactive, often prioritizing caution over competitiveness without providing clarity in return. Tourism thrives on decisiveness. Confidence attracts confidence. The Philippines projected uncertainty, and tourists responded accordingly. Once travelers, redirected their plans elsewhere, many didn't come back. And momentum was lost, and rebuilding trust has proven far harder than reopening ever was. At the center of all of this is corruption. Not always loud, not always dramatic, but persistent enough to weaken the entire tourism system. Even the entire system. This isn't speculation, it's documented. Over the years, multiple tourism-related agencies and officials have faced investigations, court cases, and public scrutiny. For example, several former officials of the Philippine Tourism Authority were convicted of graft in cases involving irregular transactions. A reminder that misuse of tourism funds has real, proven consequences. In another widely reported case, the former tourism secretary and several others faced graft charges over questioned advertising and tourism-related deals, highlighting long-standing concerns about accountability at the top. And in 2018, the Tourism Promotions Board drew criticism after releasing 80 million pesos for the Buhay Karinderya food tourism project without public bidding. The project was later suspended, and the commission audit ordered an investigation. Regardless of intent, the result was the same: delays, wasted momentum, and damage to credibility. More recently, the Department of Tourism faced backlash over the launch of the Love the Philippines campaign after it was revealed that stock footage from other countries had been used. It's very embarrassing. The issue isn't just about the video, it raised broader questions about oversight, procurement, and how public funds are spent. Reports also scrutinized the high cost of certain tourism events, further fueling public skepticism. These incidents matter because corruption doesn't just waste money, it creates ripple effects, and it means infrastructure projects stall or underdeliver. It means marketing campaigns lack substance. It means pricing becomes distorted, enforcement weak, and accountability optional. Travelers may not follow Philippine politics closely. They may not know the names, cases, or the agencies involved, but they feel the dysfunction in unreliable systems, inconsistent rules, poor value for money, and a lack of trust. And once trust is lost, no slogan can buy it back. Now, I want to balance this conversation because none of this means the Philippines isn't worth visiting. It absolutely is. There are places here that are genuinely breathtaking, not just by Southeast Asian standards, but globally. Palawan, especially El Nido and Coron, consistently ranks among the most beautiful island destinations in the world. Batanes offers a kind of quiet, dramatic beauty you won't find anywhere else in the region. Siquijor, despite its infrastructure issues, still feels magical when experienced at the right pace. Camiguin, Siargao, and parts of Bohol remain deeply special. What makes the Philippines shine isn't just the scenery too, it's the warmth of people, the sense of community, and the moments that feel genuinely human. Many travelers still fall in love with the country despite the challenges, not because those challenges don't exist. And that's exactly the point. I don't know why I feel teary-eyed talking about this, maybe because it's something special to me and it just feels sad that, a very beautiful country is being exploited and the people are also suffering because of the corruption, and not only the people but the country as a whole. I'm sorry. Again, as I've mentioned, many travelers still fall in love with the country despite the challenges, not because those challenges don't exist. The Philippines succeeds when visitors are informed, prepared, and realistic. It shines brightest when expectations align with reality, when destinations are chosen carefully, and when experiences are curated thoughtfully, not rushed or oversold. This video isn't about driving people away. That's the last thing I want to do. It's about being honest so the country can do better and so travelers who do come can actually enjoy what makes Philippines special. Because the beauty is real, the potential is real, and that's why these conversations matter. The Philippines isn't losing tourism because it lacks beauty. It's losing tourism because systems fail where beauty can't compensate. And tourism isn't about slogans or hashtags, it's more than that. It's about reliability, fairness, and trust. Until governance improves, the beaches will remain, but tourists will keep choosing elsewhere. If you've visited the Philippines, what made you hesitate to come back? And if you're a Filipino, what do you think we keep avoiding fixing? Leave your comments below. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. This has been Dee, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! The Philippines has one of the most richest cultures in Southeast Asia. Now, navigating the Philippines without a law. In competing destinations, outages are treated as For tourists, the message is simple. Simple? If even. Efficiency. Heritage. Natakaan ko. It shines brighter. Travelers plan their entire trips on their phones. Every extra steps. Travelers plan their entire... Thank you for watching, guys. Happy New Year.